David Tarnas is currently the state representative for House District 7 in North Kohala, South Kohala, and North Kona on the Big Island. He previously served as the state representative for Kohala and Kona back in the 90s, 1994 to 1998. David is a professional environmental planner with his own company focused on managing development of private, residential, and commercial projects in environmentally sensitive areas. David is co-author of Hawaii's Ocean Resource Management Plan in 1990 and author of the 1998 law, Act 306, that created the West Hawaii Regional Fishery Management Area. Last session, he passed 2 bills earlier this year, helping agencies and homeowners prepare for sea level rise. So, as chair of the Water and Land Committee, David, you're one of our key players. What do you have to say for us today?
Thank you very much, Ted, and thank you everyone for being here. And I have to emphasize, I didn't pass the bills, the whole legislature did. I am just a chair of the Water and Land Committee, but it really takes both chambers and all the legislators working together to be able to pass legislation. So you're very kind, but it was a kako effort. I want to mention a couple of different executive branch efforts right now that all of the folks who are here today really I request that you pay attention to and engage with. And one of them is the state land use review of districts. It was previously referred to as the district boundary review. The 2021 draft report just came out and asking for public comment, and comments are due January 7th. And so, you know, that's an important, land use is a very important part of how we can address and adapt to climate change. And so I would urge you to look at that. The other is, we have the sustainability coordinator here among us today, Danielle Bass, and the state sustainability plan. I would urge everyone to read it. There's a lot of really good recommendations, findings and recommendations in that plan. And it's going to take a major effort to try to implement them. The executive branch is taking the lead, and at the legislature, I seek to support that and support the executive branch in carrying out some of these efforts. The third one is actually in the ocean, and that's the Herbivore Management Plan. DLNR, Division of Aquatic Resources, just came out with that Herbivore Management Plan. This is initial draft. These are not proposed rules yet, but as you know, our coral reefs are really under a great deal of stress. And so better managing our herbivores is very important because herbivores play an important role in protection of our coral reefs. And so there'll be a series of public meetings about them. So I urge you to participate in those if you would. Ted mentioned a couple of important bills that the legislature passed last session. And I look forward to the executive branch coming back with recommendations on how we address the critical infrastructure that will be affected by sea level rise. We have to start dealing with that. It's going to be expensive, and we have to figure out what are the priorities and how we deal with those, whether they're roads or utilities, parks. We need to figure out how we're going to address them and how we're going to pay for it. Getting to legislation this session, certainly the green fee is a priority for me. Last session, we were able to pass the Ocean Stewardship Special Fund and an Ocean Stewardship Fee, which was really the first time we passed a fee that is being, specifically charged to visitors, or those in this case who are using any commercial ocean recreation vessel. That per capita fee goes into an Ocean Stewardship Special Fund that would support marine resource management efforts. And I think that was a very good step. Call it a blue fee, if you will. But this time around, this session, we really need to move forward to pass a green fee broadly applied to visitors and those who might be using transient accommodations. Representative Lowen is working on that, and I certainly support that effort. You know, when we look at the impacts of climate change and how we adapt to them, for me, one that is so striking is the increase in wildfires. And so we really need to deal and increase the capacity of the agencies to be able to address that, whether by trying to take measures to prevent wildfires from occurring, providing sufficient funds to fight wildfires when they occur, and funds in order to mitigate and restore the landscape after a wildfire. You know, besides nutrient loading of our nearshore waters, which was brought up by Representative Lowen, the other major impact on our nearshore waters is sediment that comes down in, basically sediment-laden runoff coming down into the ocean on streams. And in order to reduce that, we need to better manage our land use. And I think that's something that wildfire management is a big part of. Here on this island, we're also dealing with a significant overpopulation of goats. And that's a very difficult issue, and we need to figure out how to deal with that. So that'll be something else I'll be working on this session. Watershed management, improving our resources for reforestation, and dealing with this conflict between ranchers who want to keep land in pastoral use and the DLNR interested in taking some of those pasture lands and reforest, is a tough conflict. So this interim, we've been having an Act 90 working group, that's what it's called referring to a bill passed many years ago that would transfer DLNR pastoral land leases over to Department of Agriculture. I would urge everyone here to take a look at the Act 90 Working Group website, where we've provided all the information that we've gathered through the working group meetings. The draft legislative report is posted there. I've gathered comments on that. I co-chair that along with Senator Lorraine Inouye, and we'll be proposing legislation based on that report, which I believe will help us move forward to address those issues and also support and increase the capacity of DLNR to do reforestation in important areas, because we need more reforestation for watershed purposes, ecosystem services, native species restoration, and also to reduce sedimentation and sediment-laden runoff. Couple of bills that we worked on last session that are still pending. HB 498, in lieu fee mitigation. I think it's a very important tool for DLNR. I urge you to take a look at that bill. HB 46, which basically would require all entities that have habitat conservation plans, such as wind farms, to have a service agreement with a facility that would be able to provide emergency medical services and rehab services for injured wildlife, like seabirds or bats, for example. And so those two bills are still pending. As all of you know, the legislature, when we convene, it's a 2-year session. So any bills that are still pending from the first year of the session, that is the 21 session, are still viable and can be scheduled for hearings in the 22 session. And so I'm going to really work to try to move some of those bills forward. A couple of other things I want to mention. I had a bill last session, which I'm going to reintroduce with some amendments, which would be to increase the penalties for aquatic resource violation. Again, trying to increase the capacity of the DLNR to do their job. We did a lot of work to support the enforcement arm of DLNR, and that's under Representative Lowen's committee, DoCare. And so we added additional funds and positions. And I thank Rep. Lowen for taking the lead on that. But we do need to actually help increase the capacity to levy increased penalties on those who violate those aquatic resource rules. And then finally, one of the big impacts on our forest bird populations with global climate change is that as it warms, the mosquitoes that would not have gone up to higher elevation now are able to do so. And so the birds who kept moving up into higher elevations to escape the mosquitoes are now being subject to them. And mosquitoes carry avian malaria. And frankly, our native birds are under an existential threat from mosquitoes. Habitat loss is certainly a huge part of it, but along with a number of other representatives, I'm working on trying to increase the tools for the administration through joint partnerships with the federal government and private partners to do landscape scale mosquito control so that we can cut back on the population of mosquitoes that are really threatening our forest bird populations. There's always a lot more bills that will be certainly moving, and I support the efforts of Rep. Lowen and Senator Gabbard and other advocates in the legislature. But that's just a sampling of some of the bills that I want to move forward, and also other plans that the executive branch is working on that I would urge this group to get involved with. So thank you all for your advocacy and being here today, and I look forward to the conversation. Back to you, Ted.
Thank you, Representative Tarnas. One of the areas that I think may come before your Water and Land Committee that affects carbon sequestration is what you can do on the land. And you referenced some of the forest and rancher issues. I wonder if there are opportunities to affect the building sector with bioenergy, things developed like from hemp and bamboo. Are you familiar with those?
I've been a longtime supporter of alternative building materials that we could produce on island, and certainly hemp and bamboo are two of those. If there are measures that we could move through the committee that would assist that, I'd certainly be very interested in supporting that. But I'm not sure if it's a statutory restriction that's really dealing with that's preventing it. I understand it's more of building code issue, and that's at the county level. But I think that there are some, there has been some progress in that regard. And I certainly would support if there are statutory changes that are needed. I'd certainly be interested in supporting that. But frankly, I think it's more at the county building code level.
Thank you. Relating again to carbon sequestration, are there issues, because I know there are a number of people in this group who are interested in that. Do you have suggestions of where people should direct their efforts from this group?
I don't. Carbon sequestration, we want to keep the carbon, as I said, one of the big things I'm trying to figure out is how to keep the soil on the land and not have it run off into the ocean. And by better managing our lands, our large landscapes, we can do that. And if you have good grassland management, then you can keep that carbon, held within the soil itself. If we have wildfires, overgrazing by uncontrolled populations of ungulates, then we lose all that carbon because it's all eroded and it's released into the air, and the soil goes into the ocean. So for me, better wildfire management, land use management is certainly a part of carbon sequestration.
Thank you for that. As somebody who's worked on coral reef issues, I know how important it is to try to keep the land on the land and not have sediment run off onto the reefs, which is one of the leading factors in damaging reefs, which are already so stressed with climate change. So thank you, Representative Tarnas, for your remarks today and for your work on these issues. We look forward to working with you in the coming session.